Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We have an amazing disruptor. She's disrupting her own life, in fact, by jumping into a brand new role. We have from Star Trek fame, Gates McFadden. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
And I wanted to preface that by saying she's disrupting her whole life because she has gone from being actress to podcast host. You have your brand new podcast coming out with the Nacelle Company. Actually, it's out already by now, which is great.
Oh yeah, right. It is right.
Yeah.
We're doing this in advance. Sorry.
Yeah,
no, you're good. Gates McFadden InvestiGates. Who do you think you are? And it is basically, the podcast is a 10-episode limited series based out of Nacellecast Studios, the new state-of-the-art podcast studio. Give us the log line. Give us the synopsis of what people can expect from this podcast.
Give us the synopsis. Well, there are. First of all, it might be a tip-off. It's more, who do you think you are? That's my little take on it. A little more sassy. We have conversations. It's conversations with my good friends from all those years of Star Trek, and there's cast members, and there's a lot of memories, laughing. We don't talk about the show. I mean, it comes up occasionally, but it's about just our life as friends and people, and we go different places, and sometimes something comes up, like at the end, where I'm laughing hysterically because one little comment leads into remembering something, and then Brent and I have this moment where I swear I don't think I've laughed so hard in years. But with everybody, like with Will Wheaton, he's so awesome with podcasting himself, and he knows how to interview, and I mean, he's just like, he's the best, and I adore my space son. There's just no mistake. And so for him, I wanted to make it a conversation in some way, but I didn't want it to be awkward for him to be asking me questions in a weird way. So I had us play games. So we started with Never Have I Ever. And, we talked about a lot of things, like, when did you lose your virginity? And, we went places. Wow. And then we got into ethical questions. And I'm telling you, like, we're close. He comes over to my house, whatever but I learned a lot about him and I'm sure he learned more than he wanted to know about me. And it might upset people, but there you go. That's the point of it, is trying to ask questions that maybe people aren't always asked, and have people just share things about their lives.
You have Jonathan Frakes, you have LeVar Burton, Will Wheaton, Brett Spiner, Marina Sirtis, Michael Dorn.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yep. I'm going to butcher names. That is rule. We went over our rules before this podcast started, and I forgot my number one rules. I will butcher.
You have to forgive him. He's kind of an outsider.
I will butcher everyone's name. Even if I know your name, I'm going to butcher it. It's just, that's what he said.
It butchers my name, and I've been on the show for 5 years. So
that's tragic. That's tragic. Well, no, they're all there. And then
great list.
People from Voyager. I've got John Delancey and Bob Picardo, Nana Visitor, and I'm hoping to get Whoopi.
Okay.
I've got 14 in the can, and we'll just see where it goes. I hope people enjoy it. I hope they're kind. No,
I'll be kind.
I've never done anything like this, and I turned it down twice. This is kind of like a way. I'm someone who's like, oh, come on, why would anyone want to listen to me? And then Brian, the CEO of Nacelle Company, Brian Volk Weiss, who is awesome, I have to say. I dig this man. He's really wonderful. I'm like, why is he talking to this old lady, me? He's so cool. Anyway, he said, no, you got to think about it. Come on, I think it'd be great. And I said, we're not talking Star Trek. None of my friends would even answer the phone if they thought I was going to ask him a Star Trek question. He's like, okay, we'll talk about anything you want. Anyway, So I'm down to the wire, and he's come back and asked me again. And this is what I've said. The last time I turned something down twice, and then I was lucky enough to have them come back and ask a third time, was the Star Trek show.
Oh,
Yes, because I didn't know about Star Trek. I had never seen Star Trek.
Sure.
So that changed my life in such a good way. So I went, man, what is wrong with you, Gates? God, get you've got something that comes to you from the universe, and why do they have to knock 3 times? So
Well, I think you have a good filtering system there. Actually, that actually is fantastic.
It
I mean,
probably helps you more than you think it did.
Hassan wishes I asked him at least twice so he could have turned me down.
Well, okay, but this is the truth now. The final tipping point reason I said yes was so I'm with my friends Aida and Tracy, and we're sitting on their porch. We're social distance. It's in COVID. And they have a dog, Luna, who's so adorable. And Luna was a rescue, just very scared, doesn't like to pet anybody, had never let me pet her, never taken a biscuit from me, whatever. So anyway, we were talking about it, and I'm going, well, I don't know. Hey, let's let Luna decide. And I said, give me 2 biscuits. And I got 2 dog biscuits. And I put them down. And I said, if she takes the left hand, I'm doing it. If she takes the right hand, I'm not. And I swear to God, we thought she was going to just not do anything. But she actually, she embraced it. And she went,
wow,
right and left. No, maybe not. Maybe. Oh, I don't know. She could. And it was just like my mind. She was doing my mind. And then finally she just snapped the one on the left. And I went, I'm doing it. I am doing it.
So the universe is playing with you.
Yeah.
What's it like, because obviously you've been on the other end of things, right? Being interviewed as part of Star Trek, as part of any theatrical role. Being interviewed has its own quirks, but now you're actually taking the interviewer chair. You're first chair, as we like to call it. You were first chair in all this.
That sounds nice. Okay.
It does, right? It's not bad.
It's not as good as the captain's chair, but it does sound nice.
Yeah. So you're first chair. Like, what was the transition like for you? And what were some of the quirks that you kind of, you felt as you took on this new role?
I think I was afraid for any silence because I was such a novice that I didn't realize, well, you can just edit that spot together. It's like, duh. But I'm like, don't have any empty spots, keep it rolling. And so then that's sort of a tendency anyway. When I'm slightly nervous, like even here, I've got a faster energy. I always admire people who, when they're doing interviews, they're like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was fun, and they're kind of, yeah, let me tell you a story. I'm like, yeah, okay, I have 5 things I can say.
Is that something that, as the podcast progressed, kind of went away? Was there more of a relaxation, or was it just, or did it always start out the same? And then
did it feel like pulling teeth the entire 14 episodes that you did?
No, I loved, my favorite moments are moments where we start playing along with each other, and it happens with certain ones. People will notice the ones that it happens, and I'll give you one example. Like LeVar, he went with this improv little thing in the beginning, and it made the whole thing work, and it just was great. It cut the ice, and we laughed, and I was like, okay, we're on the same wavelength, and that was really cool. When that happens, it's awesome. But sometimes there are technical difficulties because I couldn't do it in the studio. Well, I did some in the studio, but then COVID got bad. Yeah. And sometimes, like the Wi-Fi, when I did it with Marina, there was a delay. So sometimes we spoke over each other, that kind of thing. And so it's not like you're not listening, because actually we were very connected.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. So you miss things that way, that when you're in the studio, it doesn't happen that way because you're looking at each other.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, Star Trek wasn't the number one topic at all, but did you end up, just based on your conversations, getting into that universe a little bit?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
Yeah.
We are a very close cast, which is such a gift. I mean, they are just the greatest people, and we all think we're pretty funny, and we all have had so many bizarre and wonderful experiences, that there's a lot to draw from, and it just depends, everybody has different rhythms, and you know how it is when you're interviewing someone, you yourself have to be in a certain frame of mind to be as open and curious as, you might not be that day, and maybe the next day you're more curious. It
Yeah.
really, so that's been interesting to observe.
Yeah.
Um, I think there are so many things I could do better, and maybe I'll have the chance to do that. But I hope that at least, I think I show off my friends pretty well. I think they come off pretty well, and I think that was the most important thing to me. I cut a lot of my stories out because I think I felt a pressure to make sure the conversation kept rolling.
Yeah.
And also as a kid, I always was pushed to perform by my parents. And so I think it's one of the things that drives me crazy about myself is that I just, I'm trying like too hard,
Okay, so I have like two geek questions.
Okay, go for it.
Very very simple. Knowing the friction that is pretty famous that happened in amongst several other the Star Trek casts of the Star Trek shows. I mean, it's not that deep a question. How blessed do you feel that you guys like famously get along with each other? You guys are famously tight. So yeah, I'm sure that made making that show much easier. That you the strength and the bond that you had between each other. And I'm just wondering if you get the vibe off of some of the other cast members that you've interviewed, that it wasn't that cohesive a unit for them on their shows, their prospective shows.
Well,
you don't have to dish.
No,
dish, please, dish. I'm clicking my Twitter right now.
Well, I think we always did get along, and I think that's because we had similar backgrounds in many ways. There were so many of us who were theater actors, and like Patrick, before I even started shooting, had gone to see me do a play that I was doing. So there was that. I think we all had senses of humor. I think we also, though, in the beginning, there were a lot of nerves and, things happened, but we ultimately weathered everything. And now we're on a group text. And some of that happened because of the pandemic,
Yeah.
We missed seeing each other at the cons because once we had the Calgary 25th anniversary of Next Gen was when we all started to be around and see each other. We had all kind of gone and done different things. Like I shot something in Hawaii, and I went to France. I have a place in France that I went in this tiny little village. And so there were a lot of diverse things that we were all doing, but we started to see each other again. And it was like, oh yeah, we really do get along. We really do laugh. So we would have these, that was one of the reasons to go do conventions, is we could all go out to dinner afterwards and laugh ourselves silly and have breakfast. So that is when we really started even bonding more, because you had a little distance, you were doing different things. And that's been wonderful. The one, I see Patrick the least of anyone because he's so busy, and, he had been traveling so much doing different projects. But I talked to LeVar Brent, Jonathan Marina, Michael Dorn all the time, and Denise all the time. Will Wheaton. Like I was doing an interview the other day and I got a text from Will during the interview. We're close, and it's a wonderful gift. It is so great. I would say that is a sustaining friendship, that we all we know each other's faults and foibles, and we know each other's strengths, and there's a lot of love. So that's wonderful. I know that a lot of people talk about how other shows didn't have it that way. But it's not like there was hatred on all the other shows. And I think these people have now sort of resolved some of their differences. It's a really good energy in the room when you go to these cons and there's a lot of Trek actors from different shows. People are pretty progressive and smart and want the world to be a better place. And there's a lot of activism within the casts, and so there are things that have brought all of us together. I mean, look at George Takei. George Takei, sorry.
You fit right in on the show now.
Yeah.
You're an honorary. You're third chair. So there you go.
I mean, he's amazing how he has he keeps working towards the future, making it a better place. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. And William Shatner never stops. It's also been amazing just even getting to know them some. I had gotten to know Leonard before either George or Bill, but
no, he was on the show, the first episode, right? Yeah.
No, that was McCoy. That was
McCoy. Yeah, I'm thinking Leonard McCoy. Right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
DeForest Kelly.
DeForest, yeah.
Who was so sweet. But I mean, again, I just knew him, casually. I didn't really know him. Not that I know George or Bill, but I have listened to things that Bill has said, and what a life, and very articulate man. I have enormous respect for him and what he's done for the gay community. And it's really the activism of all of the actors in the different shows is extraordinary, I think. And I don't know anybody who just really doesn't get along at all. Personally, I don't of any of the shows. There's no one who I think, oh God, there's so-and-so, look out. Just doesn't happen.
You guys were legendary for getting along, though. I mean, I don't know how much of that was PR, but you guys were, that's the reason. That was the basis for my question, is that you guys like a legendary cohesion with each other. So,
well, that's nice to hear.
You mentioned the Comic-Con experience. I mean, Star Trek fans can be very like obsessive and very like detail oriented. I mean, it's Comic-Con fans in general. Before the pandemic, what I'd read was that you actually really embraced the Comic-Con experience more now than back then. Talk to us about that, and how has the fan interaction been, and your connection to the fan base. Obviously it's going to be pre-pandemic because of the interruption we've had in the past year and a half, but pre-pandemic, what was the connection to the fan base, and how did you feel about it at that point?
Well, it's funny. In the beginning, for example, I love doing cameos.
Mm-hmm.
The part I love is that someone will give me some suggestions of what the situation is. Those are my favorite ones. Or they sincerely need a boost because they've been sick or really something's going on. And so I actually love taking the time to come up with my thoughts about it, and I want it to be authentic. But I also can have fun. And not everybody would maybe enjoy this, but one of my favorite ones was this couple that they couldn't, because of the pandemic, they had to cancel their honeymoon, and they were going to have this or anniversary honeymoon, something like that, and they were going to go to Barbados, and it was going to be this great thing. And they were like, so we just need a cheer up cameo. So I put Jimmy Buffett on, and I kind of made this fake Mai Tai cocktail, and I had my hat on, and I have made it it look like I was on a in the sun in some beautiful place, and I'm like, you guys, where are you? I'm in the Bahamas. I'm waiting for you. Like I've got, and I was able to do this thing that they laughed, and it was funny, not so funny when I told you, but it was funny on the doing. and things like that I enjoy doing, because it's sort of, if you can bring a little happiness into somebody, or a little smile or laughter, that's kind of nice. And people have gone through such hard times. I'm so fortunate. I really have no right to complain about anything except for this podcast that you're doing. But so I really can appreciate if I can do one thing that makes somebody feel a little bit better. It's really it's a pleasure for me to do that. I think fans in general, I used to be afraid of fans.
Yeah.
And that was because of personal experience. I had been stalked for a couple of years by somebody. So I got really, I just was afraid of going into big rooms in case I'd meet this person again. Yeah. But then I was able to relax about it. And fans are really lovely. And we have smart fans. Yes, some of them are obsessive, but they're also super smart, the way my space son is. They're technically way beyond me in their understanding of technology.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You learn, you go to one place, like you go to Utah and you see the fans there versus going to Chicago, going to another city, going down to Florida.
Yeah.
I feel it gives me a chance to know this country a little bit. And even though all of our fans seem to be really interested in science and are nice, there are big social differences that you see. And that's interesting because activism is important. It's important to know what's going on in the country and, to try to share conversations about things like that. It's important.
Yeah, it really is. And it's nice to be able to have, we do the comic and, we do the Comic Cons also for the comic book, side of what we do. And that's something that I was always grateful for is I was able to kind of hit almost all the corners of the country and you get a different experience. Getting back to the podcast real quick. Is it going to be limited? It's your friends right now, and it seems to be hovering around the Star Trek universe. Any thoughts of expanding outward into different types of guests?
Well, it could go any number of places. Absolutely. Like I once emailed with an astronaut when he was on the space station.
Oh wow, yeah, see that'd be great.
To talk about that and why it was important. I mean, he was definitely having a Picard moment there, so that's why I was Crusher, But that's kind of really interesting because he's the real deal and I'm the pretend deal,
Yeah.
And why is that relationship important? And it actually is an important relationship because as he had said, if I hadn't had sort of the image of Star Trek, the possibility, it makes me believe it's going to be okay. It can happen. We'll get to the space station, and that's pretty interesting. So I think we just have to wait and see what happens. As I said, I have 14 in the can. I'm hoping to talk to Whoopi, and we'll see how it breaks. I have to. I said to myself after Luna the dog dared me to do it, I said, okay, I've got to be willing to just do it, give it my all. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, it was a try. It's better than just staying home and doing nothing. So that's what's up. And I've been having a good time.
Well, we love
important part.
Yeah, we love that you have taken some time out today to tell us about the podcast. Where can people find the podcast? Where can they consume it?
It's going to be on all of the, it's on Apple, Spotify, it's everywhere that is the normal place, and it goes live on the 12th of May, and it's InvestiGates. Who do you think you are? I mean, really, let's think about this, and
it's going to be a weekly release.
Yeah, that's right. That's
so new episode. We're 2 weeks into the run, so very excited, and we caught the first episode. Was amazing. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And somehow Luna, I don't think you did the biscuit test with Luna to be on our show. I think she might have picked the other biscuits. So we're grateful for that as well. And you are welcome. Welcome back anytime. And cool. Hassan will teach you some bass when he does.
You guys are great. I'm serious. Okay, I got to learn the bass. I got to. It's on my bucket list.
Oh boy. Well, you will not have a better teacher than Hassan, even though he hates when I promote him in this way, but he is the best. He is the best.
All right, you guys stay cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we come back, more Rogue Wave podcast.